Hello everyone, my name is Ben Sturt from Chrysalis Digital and welcome to this webinar titled Be First Out of the Digital Blocks Post-COVID-19. And what we're aiming to do today is really give you, a few takeaways, a few positive takeaways and things to think about that when we're back to business as usual, how we can really be in the best digital shape to take our organisation forward. So, at times, you might feel a little like this, touch out of control maybe, but let's remember you can only really control what you can control. So don't try and control the things that are out of your reach. But as a piece of advice, I would really do think of this period as a prototyping phase, where you're trialing for the first time a whole range of digital tools and new technologies. So anyway, we do need to ask ourselves how we can begin to put ourselves in order, away from the sort of the slight chaos that we're in, and really get our members and our teams sort of united once more and to build some really successful digital outcomes. So over the next 15 minutes, we're going to take a look at 4 areas where we've really been sort of stretched in our business as usual and our daily operations, and how we can harness these and take the best bits from them and adopt them into our new normal and sort of discard the rest, and so really build some truly successful digital outcomes. The first bit we'll look at our sort of business processes and where those sort of rapid innovations that we've sort of incorporated over the last couple of months can be adopted into mainstream business. We'll also look at data. You've almost certainly captured a heap more data, but it's what to do with it right now. We'll also look at technology and what new platforms have been initiated and where do they sit within the organisation. And last but by no means least, what skills have been learnt and what challenges are there within our team members. So firstly on to business process, and let's look at how and those rapid innovations can be adopted back into the business. So it's probably fair to say that your sort of business processes and your digital processes also have been tested hard over the last 2 months. Some will have broken, but there will undoubtedly be new processes that never existed before. So it's really worth documenting those and how they have helped improve member services or indeed internal operations. You've been innovating and you've undoubtedly applied some plasters in a few places too, but just ensure that those plasters don't become permanent fixtures, but do adopt them if they're worthwhile. For example, I know some suppliers have integrated Zoom into their events platform for making for a much more seamless operation. Obviously some processes should be kept, others not. So do ask yourselves which ones we're going to keep, which ones have made us more efficient and which ones haven't. But when you do find the ones that you do want to keep, do share the process with others, and like I said earlier, do document it. It does help. Certainly during this period there'll be some quick wins that will be realised across your processes. Some of these can be implemented immediately, but do keep communicating to the rest of the team, so that these new processes that have been adopted, these new processes, don't become just another silo process that sits with just one team or an individual, but can be used across the whole organisation. And then probably lastly with the business processes, and very importantly, do take advantage of the strange time that we're in. The ability we've got to be able to behave differently. Use the time to get staff and team members thinking about what they do on a daily basis. For example, think about the cost of UK and international travel. When a simple video call may offer significant time and financial saving, and not to mention environmental benefit. One company I know, has a sort of a monthly company-wide meeting where they get all the people together, and by the time they've travelled and travel expenses, it's costing them in excess of £1,500 a month. That's obviously now moved online, and he's just said, I just can't believe it. I'm just not spending any money at all. That's not to say there shouldn't be any social interaction at all, but it's some of the things to think about. Okay, so let's move on to data. And certainly you've almost captured a heap more data over the last few months, but where are the gaps and what do we do with it and so on. But look at it in this way. This is a forced pit stop, and it should be a good time to take stock of your data, understand the new data, the old, where the gaps are. Obviously, if you don't have the benefit of a cloud CRM, then it's going to be hard to look at your current data because it's stuck on on premise in your office maybe. But if you don't have that benefit of cloud CRM, then you'll need to export the data somehow and send securely to teams to clean those sections to have a look. WeTransfer is quite good for doing this. Also, don't forget that with obviously all that new technology having been adopted, you'll probably be collecting new and valuable data, adding to what you already have. So you do need to think about how and where that data needs to be stored and what needs to be kept and what not. And as we all work remotely, now is the time probably where we can see the value in having that quality data that's easily accessed in your CRM. So leverage this opportunity, to enable users to see the value of the CRM, whereas before, it's in the office, it's there. They might not have really seen the true value of it. And then finally, another thing to think about is, think about what data can be automated. Sometimes it's hard to, keep staff members, admin, etc., sort of motivated to key in data. So, do think about what can be automated. Now, whether that's improving your member portal and members adding some of their own data rather than relying on admin staff. Look at some of the more automated email updates you've probably had to do by force over the last sort of couple of months. You'll be sending your members lots of information. A lot of those interactions would have been recorded automatically on the email data. Can we append that data back into the CRM so that we don't have to enter it all the time? So moving on to technology, we want to have a look at the technology. What is being used, and where does it? What new technology is being used, and where does it sit within the organisation? So first thing probably is do review those legacy systems that you've been unable to access recently. You may not have thought of them as legacy, but you probably do just now. It's that that good old custom-built database built 10 to 15 years ago. Always works. Nothing's ever gone wrong with it, except you can't access it now because you're not in the office. And you'll have no doubt trialed a number of new technologies in the last few months. Some good, some not so good. Without stating the obvious, the ones that truly work, try and adopt those into your technology stack within the organisation. Bearing that last point in mind, technology adoption. In times of crisis like this, most technology adopted will probably sit outside of the core business. So to ensure the greater take-up when we'll get back to normal and its sort of continued success, it's really, really important that any sort of innovation around technology and processes really do get the senior team support. So something to bear in mind. And also just to expand on that, part of the last point is whether the new technology can actually integrate with your existing CRM and other technologies within the organisation, or do you have the ability, if not to integrate, to export data between the two systems? So any new technology that you're taking on board at this time, check on that. Also, just smaller points that you might overlook. Check on the licensing. Obviously, at the moment, suppliers are there's a lot of goodwill out there, and some of the software available is comes with free licensing. But when we get back to normal, and you've got 50 people on a piece of software, is that licensing still going to be as attractive as it is now? So just something to bear in mind. And finally, moving on to the people. We need to understand, what new skills have been learnt, where have there been challenges, and probably, most important, one of the most important things, how have your staff coped with the lockdown? From the technology point of view, they may have learnt a whole load of new skills. You should really embrace this one, But if they are learning new skills, then how can that be sort of shared amongst the rest of the team? So do offer peer-to-peer training if possible. Do some technology screen share sessions. Could be quite fun for them. And probably beyond that, don't lose that knowledge gained. We do need to capture the knowledge. We've all massively upskilled, and we've learnt a huge amount over the last few months. So make sure it is fed back into the team, and and that training is captured somewhere. And probably something it's often overlooked, but certainly very important given where we're at now, and with all the remote working, is that sort of remote working etiquette that I call it. For example, we don't want to miss an important decision because everyone's talking over one another on a video. We should probably be testing video and audio settings before the call, and don't try and multitask. Don't try and do all the texting and social mediaing while you're meant to be on a business call. But do have those regular workplace traditions. The drinks on Friday, yes, okay, it's probably virtual, but it's still really important to have them, as as those bonds will rapidly fall away. So make use of the technology with all your staff. Now, sort of in summary, we probably all feel a little bit sort of daunting at the moment, and you may feel exposed. But just a few takeaways from me today as we close this session. As I said earlier, do take advantage of where we're at now and do experiment. It's going to be business as usual. In a matter of I don't know, 2 to 5 months. We'll be sat back in the offices again. So take the time to be proactive, seize those opportunities, and just take advantage of being able to behave differently for a little while. Get lean and efficient. Look at those cumbersome processes. Critically look at methods of working and legacy systems. Do they have a place in today's organisation? Share the knowledge. Whilst there is that inevitable downtime, get colleagues doing peer-to-peer training on what they've learned in these last few months. We've certainly set a precedent to our members. Now whether that's in increasing comms or you displaying better value to your members, you've set a precedent and a bar. So you've got to maintain that output. It can't sort of falter as we go back to normal. And the final point probably is, for me, is just don't lose what I call that digital thread. If there's one thing you take away, is that. So whenever you do return, just think of the efficiencies digital has given you over the recent months. How big a game changer it's really been, and what you've been able to do. Think of the cost savings in travel, the environmental benefits, how it's connected you and your teams. So anyway, don't lose it.